Hello, Amanda.
Bonjour. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my background is my parents are Italian. My father immigrated to Canada in the late 50s, went back, found my mother, and brought her back to Canada with him. And I was born in 1960. I was raised here in Toronto. I'm fluent in Italian, French, Spanish, English, so, but I love languages, and I was always very interested in mental health. So I became a lawyer, practiced law for 33 years, and started working in a residential therapeutic community where I worked with individuals that had addictions issues, men basically. And I have a martial arts background. So I spent I'm a fifth degree black belt in Taekwondo. And I used the teachings of the Taoist monks as part of the spirituality when I work with individuals with addictions, because addictions are not just about the medical side of the addiction. There's also the biopsychosocial. So having to deal with issues of attachment, having to deal with issues of violence, trauma in youth. All these different aspects need to be understood. And the one way to fix a lot of those issues is building what's known as intrinsic motivation. So in the traditions of the First Nations, it would be the teachings of the seven grandfathers, and utilizing building things like respect, integrity, importance of. So I switched actually while I was running the addiction center from using Taoist philosophy to using Indigenous, and utilizing the stories of Indigenous people to understand the importance of how to build strength within the individual. I eventually became the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions. I have my Indigenous name. I'm Many Rivers from the Anishinaabe First Nations. I was given my spiritual name by a spiritual, by a medicine woman. So I've spent a lot of time trying to understand Indigenous teachings, because I believe that they form the basis of spirituality that is universal and not tied to a specific religion. And so the beauty of being able to relay the message, the importance of, protecting Mother Earth, the importance of living a life with respect and respecting elders. These are fundamental principles that a lot of our youth, unfortunately, when I say our youth, I mean all our youth, have lost as a result of the pursuit of the material things, or things that are not as important as our own inner spiritual strength. So that's my background. That's why I came to be a minister. I'm not interested in the politics of the work. I came here because I saw a need, a lot of people really hurting for help. And I believe that by coming here, I could influence a lot of policies and decisions, and ensure that the government's investment of $3.8 billion was used in a way that would be most beneficial to everyone in all the people of our great province.
The acknowledgement of genocide, right? The broken trust report, the truth and reconciliation. When you say um, manning the hub, who is manning the hub? The six psychiatrists?
No, they'll be joining the existing hub that the Champs organization. That's the center that already exists. So what we're doing is we're using the center that exists to hire six additional psychiatrists, and we'll be getting them from the Northern Medical School. There's a process that they'll be going through in terms of hiring the people and ensuring that we get the best people available, and they'll be hired full time. And they'll form the another layer. Our intention is to deal with the backlog of supports necessary. We have a list in the province of over 28,000 kids that are not getting supports right now, that need supports desperately. So we think that by hiring these psychiatrists and putting them into the system, what we'll be able to do is help roughly 1,800 kids once the system is up and running. So that's a whole, it's our way of trying to provide better access and better supports for the kids in the, and this is all in the Northwest region. So it includes Kenora, it includes Rainy River, Thunder Bay District. So it's not just an investment in Thunder Bay, but it's Thunder Bay as kind of the hub, the center, and then being able to have doctors reach out and go into the different communities to help individuals, in their place of where they live, as opposed to having them have to come to Thunder Bay.
It's trusting the people to allow them to vote who they want to have it instead of the psychiatrists, because we've been so um, analyzed for so long,
Yeah.
given this chance. I'm hoping that we could talk more about this in the future, and maybe I'll even share some in writing with you, some of the concerns that I have, like the for, as I mentioned, the police violence, um, the hospital. The hospital has a lot of abuses with elders, with especially with Indigenous people. Um, uh, we've got the domestic violence, we've got human trafficking, we've got, like, there's a whole list, right? So I
No, I,
really look forward.
Yeah, and listening to you, I'm very much aware of all the difficulties. Obviously, I don't have the experience because I haven't lived the experience, but not living it doesn't mean that I don't understand it. And one of the things that I've always been very attuned to is understanding Indigenous spirituality and the depths and the ability of that to heal, of the spirituality we use to heal people. So I'm not adverse at all to utilizing spiritual leaders. As a matter of fact, some of the things that we've suggested when we've talked about reaching out is to have the spiritual leader of the community be part of that team, so that we don't lose sight of the importance of spirituality in the work that we're doing, helping an individual. There are things that work in Indigenous communities that are from the West, and there are things that are not going to work. And that's why it's so important that we need the Indigenous leaders to be part of any work that we do, because if there's going to be reconciliation, if there's going to be truly the ability for Indigenous people to look after themselves and feel whole, it's going to be by letting them live their lives using and understanding their culture, their traditions, their language, their heritage. And spirituality is an important part of all that. I recognize that I'm very interested in it because, as a student of psychology, one of the things that I try to understand is not how I perceive the problem, but how you perceive it. And until I can, step into your shoes, right? I will never build that relationship of trust with you. And under the circumstances of the trauma that have been experienced by First Nations people, the problem is that I will never get to that point because it's a generational trauma that only someone who's gone through it can understand. So I am very, very much interested in ensuring that you have the supports that you need in your community. And that includes leaders, spiritual leaders. Not, they don't have to have PhDs, but I think that if we had a psychiatrist that was trained, that had Indigenous roots, that came from one of the communities and lived in the community, he would be or she would be much better to understand the needs of the community than someone like me coming in would. And so I think there has to be that collaboration, those partnerships, and eventually, the supports given to the Indigenous communities to look after themselves, because they are perfectly capable of doing it. I've met incredible people. I've spent a lot of time in Manitoulin Island, and met some incredible leaders there, some brilliant students of psychology, and all Indigenous. So the capability, the educational backgrounds, the rich heritage and tradition that's alive We have to foster that. We have to nurture it. That's reconciliation. It's giving the opportunity for that to flourish and to spread so that we have more people able to teach people like me the importance of being sensitive to the needs of the different populations, including not only the indigenous but all populations that make up this great province.
When you hear the word psychiatry, you think crazy. Words are sacred to Indigenous people. Um, Learning to use the words in a sacred manner, is there an option for them?
Yeah, I that's interesting that you when you started saying it, I realized that there's connotations related to using the word psychiatry. That's an interesting comment that you made, and I'm going to take that back to my team. There is a place absolutely for everyone, and spiritual. I search them out. There's one that I speak to in Manitoulin Sudbury that I wish I could spend more time with him. He's just brilliant, and the words that come out of his mouth, every word means something, and I have to listen very carefully to not miss. So absolutely, there's a place for everyone in the healing process, and I look forward to having that conversation with you and continuing the conversation. When we get out of this terrible situation with a lockdown, I would love to sit down across from you and meet face to face and have these discussions in greater detail. To me, the only way I could ever get better at what I do is by listening to the people who live every day the experiences of their communities and want to do better for their communities. At the end of the day, I'm at Queen's Park. I'm a Toronto boy. I don't really know what it's like to live in a remote community, right? I can visit it. I can certainly, see it for many of the problems that exist there and how much more we need to do to fix it, but it's not the same thing as living there, your whole life. And so I welcome the opportunity to sit down with you again and to continue these conversations, and also whoever else you'd like to invite around the table. I'm all ears when it comes to finding ways to help. And when I say to help, it's to help you help others, because I recognize the fact that I'm limited in what I can do, being a white man from Toronto, right? I know that it's going to be it's very difficult to build that trust, and we don't have the time, quite frankly. So what I have to do is trust the people that are leaders in their communities, provide them the resources they need, and then work together to make sure that we got it right. And if we don't, what else we need to do better. And that's the best I can do as the minister, and and as a human being as well. You know what? You can call me anytime, and I really, really look forward to coming up to Thunder Bay and and spending some time face to face. I mean, I think that's the best way to learn from each other, is to actually sit down across from each other and talk and discuss and learn, right? And I'm all ears, and I'm very interested in helping the indigenous. Like I said, I owe a lot to the Anishinaabe First Nations just outside of Parry Sound. They were my teachers. They were my inspiration, and they do a lot to keep my soul alive and focused on the work that I need to do here. When I was given the name Many Rivers, what kind of a name is Many Rivers? Like, I should be, I don't know, Bigfoot, or I should be bear, running bear. I should be, I don't know, something, eagle or something. Heck, I'm water. And I thought about it and thought about it, and it couldn't have been truer. It's the word. Water is the lifeline of Mother Earth, right? And
That's right.
so to be given that name and not really knowing a lot about me personally, certainly, told me a lot about what I've got to do. So here I am. I'm here to work. I'm here to work for you and for everyone in the province. But particularly, I have a very special place in my heart for Indigenous people, just because of knowing how resilient the people you are, having gone through what you've gone through. That whatever I can do to help, I'm here to help.
Chimigwich for that. I look forward.
To keep up to date, you have to subscribe. You have to hit that like button and hit the notification to stay in touch.